Veuillez demeurer en ligne pendant que nous acheminons votre appel. Des frais d'interurbain peuvent s'appliquer.
Hello.
Krish,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing pretty good.
First of all, thank you so much for taking time for me um, at 8:30 p.m. tonight.
No problem, of course.
So it's gonna be really easy. When you're ready, I'm gonna introduce myself and let you introduce yourself. I pre-record the interview. I will edit it, but not that much. Just cut myself when I talk too much.
You
And
might have to cut me when I talk too much, just so you know I'm a talker.
no, that's good. People want to hear more you than me in an interview. But anyway, thank you so much, Krish. You were kind of the missing puzzle. We did many interviews, but you are a band that we follow since day one, and it's really honestly a really good honor to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
So whenever you're ready, my friend.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Hell yeah, this is DJ Punkcast Ben, my friend. I'm going to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, guys. I'm Chris from Much the Same. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Guys, I know there's a lot of people, that was wondering, is there something coming up after the reunion? You play at the Music for Cancer, but I mean, the main question is, will you guys release something new? Is there something in the air?
Yes, for sure, we will. And the question is how much and when, right? We've actually, when we got back together, we started, gosh, it was like 2015 when we talked and decided we were going to get back together. And the point was to write another album. And back then we said, you know what, let's just do it quietly. Let's just write and see if anything good comes out of it. We don't have to play any shows for a while. We don't have to let anybody know what we're doing. And then we immediately booked a show. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting ride from there. We've been working so it's been like 3 years that we've been working on songs. We have some finished songs. We have some songs that could be finished if we spent the time on them. We have a lot of stuff that's kind of halfway done. And really it's just been a long process because Jevin, our drummer, lives in California. The rest of the three of us live in Chicago, and I live way in the northern part of Chicago, and the other two guys live way in the southern part. And so we're even about an hour away from each other. And then, of course, Jevin is far, far away. So it's really been tough to figure out how to do all this. But I can say that there's a lot of really good songs that I'm super excited about. I think we're all super excited about that we can't wait to get out there. And I can't give you an exact day or an exact plan yet, but we do have some stuff in the works that we're trying to make happen. And hopefully there will be something this coming year. So that's the best I can say for now. But as soon as we have anything like really confirmed, we'll make sure to let everybody know because we know a lot of people have been asking for a long time.
Yeah, and for people, maybe there's people that never heard about you guys or just discover you guys, but you have a plenty. The ride was crazy when we think about it. You started at the end of the 80s, and you guys, I think, quit in 2007, something like that. You've been for 8 years, if I'm right.
Let's see. We started actually in 99. So 99 to 2007, yeah, that's 8 years, right? I can do math.
I'm not that bad, I just throw dates that I'm thinking would fit, but I think it was something like 8 years, but which is crazy because you guys have been a great run. But when you quit, that's where you guys become that thing. People were starting to get into your music and discovering you, and and that was it. And I think that's the main thing why people are so happy that you came back and play show again and have new songs in the work, is that something that maybe they discover in you, and you were not playing anymore, so for them they know all the songs but they never heard it, so that creates something really special, I think.
Yeah, and it's just a really weird way things happened. I mean, we definitely felt like we were, moving forward back then. So our second album, Survive, came out in 2006, and we loved it. We thought it was really good, and the response was really good to it. And so we tried to get out there and be active, and unfortunately, there was a lot of inner turmoil between the four of us. We weren't all getting along, which in retrospect was probably more me than anybody else. So things just didn't really work out between us. We were having trouble. You're on the road for weeks at a time with people you don't really like. It's really hard. It's weird to have this situation where we all love the music we're playing and we all feel really good about this, musical relationship that we have. But as individuals, we weren't syncing up. It was really hard. So when we ended up just calling it a day, that was during our 5-week European tour, the first time we'd ever been to Europe. And it was the best thing that we'd ever done. And so it was really weird to be, ending on that kind of note.
Yeah, you're up on tour in Europe for the first time, but then it's done, and you just
right.
It's beautiful, and then really sad in some way, but history is beautiful for that.
Yeah, and so the fact that people kept on listening to us over those years, I mean, that was really cool. We did a show in Chicago in 2011. The intent was really, okay, this is it. Like, we'd gotten past our issues. We'd all grown up a bit, and we said, let's do this thing right and let Chicago say goodbye. And it was an awesome show. I mean, we had people fly in from Europe and from Japan even for it. People drove in from all over the country.
Like, whoa, Japan!
I know, right?
It's a long ride.
And not just one guy, like 2 different guys who didn't know each other.
Oh wow!
Both flew out separately and and became friends there. At that show. So it was just so weird. But so that was an awesome way to finally, put it to rest. And then, a few more years went by and we kept kind of bouncing around the idea of doing stuff again. But I think the biggest thing was we started seeing more bands getting back together. There was a lot more festivals happening. And we just thought, you know what, if we came back now, it seems like we could have some opportunities to do some of these festivals. We wouldn't have to do long tours or anything like that. We're all grown up. 3 of us have kids. We've all got careers and stuff that we are dedicated to. So there's not a lot of time to pour into, traveling around. But that idea of like, hey, we could write some music and go do a festival here or there every few months, seemed like a much better idea. And that's pretty much exactly how it went down. Almost immediately after we started, we were able to do Grows Rock, and we've had some other opportunities since then. So that's been pretty awesome. And the weirdest part about it, like you said, is just that people have kept listening, and we are definitely drawing a lot better than we ever did back in the day. We were kind of a perpetual opener for a lot of really good bands, but we never really had that big of an audience of our own. We'd usually have just a few people in every city that we'd go to. So, which is probably still true, but now we're playing festivals and they can all come to us and it works out a lot better.
The illusion that the amount is bigger. No, but I think
right, exactly.
That's the beauty when you release great songs, strong songs, and it passed through times, and I think that's what happened with you guys. I know you pushed really yourself at those times, but let's face it, you were kind of at I think it's a hard age, late 20 and beginning of the 30 and everything. But when you got kids and everything's changed. Your vision of life and the way you see your friends and you interact with people. So it's a weird era. So, and it was a weird time in music too. Bands were quitting, through 2002 and like 2010. It was, really intense how many bands quit, and but now they came back, and like you said, there's huge festivals that are really cool, and the people behind those festivals are really great human beings, and it's just beautiful. The scene is really alive right now, and really underground too. It's has never been as DIY as now, but it's beautiful to see, and thank you for still losing money in the name of music, my friend.
Well, we're breaking even a little better these days, which is nice. So we're definitely not making any money, but we're not really losing any either. So that's fine for us,
And yeah, and one thing I really love about you guys, and I mention it because there's so many bands that put a wrong image and everything, and the fans are the reflect of what you throw, and I think that pretty much the same. It's always been something positive and always about love, and I think it's beautiful because the fans are intelligent people. They're people that succeed in life, that do things that you cannot expect. Oh, I'm a lawyer. Oh, I'm a doctor, and and they're listening to much the same. And I think that you guys from day one, and at a young age, you understood that, and you bring a really positive vibe, with the band, and I think it follow you, and it's cool to see, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't think we ever even intended to be like that. I certainly wasn't really a very positive person myself growing up, and in my younger days, I think I wrote from a lot of anger, just whatever I was angry about. But I don't know how many people know I've been a Christian all my life. That's a very important part of my life for me. So a lot of the stuff that I'm writing, even when I'm angry, I'm trying to find a positive way to look at things, trying to find what I should be doing with that anger and whatever that situation is. And I definitely didn't get that right all the time. But I think even looking back now, as an older guy, I look at some of the songs that I wrote back then and I say, there is, there's an angry guy there, but there is that something positive too of like really trying to make something better out of a bad situation as best I could. And then, when we wrote Survive, that became a much more collaborative thing, and everybody was writing music. And I credit Frank, our bassist, a lot with a lot of the best lyrics on that album and a lot of the positivity that came out of that. So it's so interesting how that is kind of, people say we're this really positive band, and I certainly never intended it to be that way. I just thought we'd be another angry punk band, but it seemed like, I don't know, something changed and something kind of just came out naturally from it. I'll be interested to see what people think of the new material because, we've gone through a really hard couple of years, and the lyrics reflect that. And so I think there will still be some positivity, but I think this is going to be the sad album. This is going to be like, it's going to sound fun, but there's a lot of sadness. It's not anger anymore. It's just kind of like, wow, life is really hard right now. And so we'll see what people think about that, if it makes a big difference or not.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, Dan got cancer, and I host a lot of kind of special shows, and we raise money and give them to cancer, community and everything to bring money, and it's sad, I have people around me that have cancer, and it's such something, a disease that it's pissed off because you cannot do a thing, outside being with your friends or family or anything, and be there for them, but it's really hard, and as you say, it's really sad, but I was born Christian too, and it just you put your hand in the end of life, or God, what you believe in, and it's just I think that even if those hard times, something beautiful can rise from that, and I think that records will be all about that.
Yeah, thanks. And the cancer thing was very hard. Nobody expects to get cancer as young as Dan is. He's about 35. when that happened. I don't know exactly how old he is, but definitely young. He's got 2 young kids, and that was just a super hard time for him and for all of us that were around him. Yeah, it was basically a year of not knowing what to expect and always thinking that things were about to get better. He had lots of, treatments coming up, and right before a treatment, they would do a test or something would happen and he'd actually gotten worse. And he got worse and he got worse and he got worse. It was really scary. I mean, I basically had accepted the fact that I was going to, lose my friend soon, and I just didn't know when. And that's a weird thing to have happen, especially when you're, involved artistically or whatever too. This whole other aspect of, gosh, not only am I struggling with this, watching my friend go through this and wanting to support him however I can, but, then my life is going to be affected in this totally other way as well if that happens. So I think all 3 of us had a tough time with that and didn't know exactly how to handle it. But we were, I think all surprised. I was certainly surprised and really excited when, he had an operation finally after months and months of treatments. He lost some of his hearing. He couldn't move his hands properly for a while from the treatment, to the point where, like, he can't hear and he can't play guitar. That's not what you want for a musician,
No, it's not blood. You live for that.
Yeah, and so it was really hard to watch him go through that and wonder how that all was going to turn out. And things aren't perfect these days, but he's got things sorted out. Obviously, he's playing guitar again. He can hear again, and yeah. So we're all just super happy, not just because of music, obviously, but to see our friend be able to get back into life and get back to his job, get back to his family, and the silver lining on some of that was some interesting music came out of it. And I don't know how much of it will be on the next album or the one after that. It all depends on how the writing process goes, but there's definitely some of that there that we're looking forward to sharing.
Wow, and I wish him, to recover fastly. He's such a warrior. It's amazing. It's such an inspiration to see people go through that and kind of reborn after that. It's not win, but still, but it's so cool to hear, man. It's such, I went through that and it just, whoa, it's devastating.
Yeah, and it was amazing to see how many people just came out of the woodwork to donate to him because he needed help with finances and to just be supportive. So many people were just really encouraging. I mean, lots of people around the world that we don't know, and lots of old friends that we hadn't heard from in forever. And it's kind of like this weird thing of, like, he almost got to see a little bit of the impact that he had in his life in a way that most people don't get to, because he got to experience all that kind of outpouring of love and then, made it and get to keep going. And that's a huge gift. My mom had something similar. She also had cancer, and she had, she got sick with something else while she had cancer, and eventually she passed away from that. But she had, a few months of people being around her and, again, just coming out of the woodwork to be supportive. And it's such a gift to be able to have that. So, I'm glad for him that he had it. And I'm glad even more that he's still here to keep enjoying life.
Hell yeah, man. And it's beautiful to see that what's gonna happen after that. It's not in our hand, but it's gonna be, who knows? But I really hope he can make it and play with you guys again really soon.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be coming along with us to Europe. We've announced 2 festivals. We're going to do some other shows while we're out there. We won't be out there for too long, but that's next year in August. So he's coming along. So yeah, as long as we assume everything's going to be good. There's been no indication at all that there's any more health issues. So we're really excited about that.
And it's going to be more interesting than the last time. So, you guys don't quit right after the tour.
Yeah, I hope not. I think we're all, no, I know we're all a heck of a lot more mature now. I mean, some of those things that caused us issues before kind of are still there. We're just very different kind of people. And so, some people are just, naturally come together and get along real well, and some don't. And so we have our struggles, but we're all grown-ups now. We know how to talk things out. We know how to deal with them. So I'm happy that, even when we're not agreeing about things or whatever, we can all kind of own up to our garbage. I mean, I'm in a place now where I can say, hey, I know I'm being super annoying about this, or I know that this is not what you want to hear from me, and I'm struggling to try to change my perspective or whatever. And so that's all been really good. We're doing much better now.
We wrote a post about the interview tonight, and there's a lot of people that have questions, and I want to thank them. Thank you, guys. There's Terry Johnson that have a particular interesting questions about, being a Christian in the scene must not be easy. I remember I'm not yelling out loud often in the scene that, I'm born Christian. I was raised in Christian school with nuns. So, and we got, we have a code of dressing, and it was really Catholic, and, I was born in that. So it followed me, and it really helped me in a way, to learn many things and maybe get out of a couple of troubles when I was a teenager because, and my mom was too. So I didn't want any trouble with her or anything. So, So anyway, but I was playing in band in the scene. I know there was a really beautiful scene with Tooth and Nail Records. There was a couple of bands, that was, saying out loud there was a Christian punk rock band. But how was for you guys?
It's been really interesting. I mean, when I started the band, it was with all Christians. It was intended to be a Christian band. And this was right in those days of, I was listening to MXPX from their first record, which I'm pretty sure I was in high school when their first album came out. And so there were a few Christian bands I was really into. Dogwood was a huge influence for me. There was a band called Hangnail that was around that I really liked. So that was kind of the intent, and we kind of like there was a growing punk scene in Chicago at the time that we were starting out. So we were involved in that, but then it was also kind of popular back then for like churches to throw punk shows, and like for all their youth kids, and those kids mostly didn't even really listen to punk, but it was just kind of the thing that their church was doing, and so they'd show up and buy all the T-shirts. And so it was from that aspect, it just kind of seemed natural. I mean, that was kind of where I was at the time, and there seemed to be room for it. But it was always a little bit odd to kind of be walking that line. And like I said, a number of our songs had Christian themes. I mean, some of them are just my prayers written out. And I don't know, some people surprise me that they've liked the song for years, and I mention that it's about God, and they go, "What? Really? Oh, I didn't know that." So that wasn't that weird. But then over time, we got that Christian scene kind of went away, and we were, and we had band member changes, and eventually I was the only Christian in the band, which is fine. We're out there just playing in the regular scene. Sometimes it would be a little weird. But generally, you hear stories of people like being super antagonistic towards Christians, or like, you get a lot of, you hear about people being, like trying to pressure you into doing things you don't want to do or living a certain way. And I've never done drugs. I've never drank. I had a problem with people who did when I was younger, and then I grew up and learned to, live and let live. But I never really had that kind of pressure. People would ask me, why don't you drink? And I just go, never wanted to. Like, it's as simple as that, through all those years, it wasn't that weird. These days, it's different, I think, not necessarily just because of the scene, but the way the world is. and especially in the United States, there's a lot more anger towards Christians because of the way that they act politically and the way that they treat people who, don't live the way that they think they should live. And I hate that more than most of those people do. I mean, there's a lot of Christians out there who are not like that. But in the media, that's what's portrayed all the time. The evangelicals are, supporting Trump in all of his racism and in all of the things that he's doing to try to keep people down. I work at an evangelical church. Like, this is my life and my people, and the people that I know in my church don't think like that, for the most part. It's really hard to, I guess, just saying I'm a Christian and leaving it at that. I fear now more than ever that people have like all of these preconceived notions about what that means, who I would be nasty to, and who I voted for. And like, it's all just, I don't know, none of that really should matter, because the truth is about, at least I'm not going to get preachy here, but, the faith as I understand it is about, taking care of other people, loving each other, taking care of the poor, taking care of the needy, and having a relationship with God that changes you into something better than what you are without him. And so that's the opposite of what I see in the media and all of the people who are, shouting that they hate gay people or that they want all the Mexicans to stay in Mexico or whatever they're shouting. So it's really hard. And I have a lot of inner turmoil about all of that stuff that I don't really know what to do with, and as it relates to the punk scene, like, I would like to write songs about that, but I feel like the songs that I would write would be these angry, like telling other Christians off for how they're acting and how they're not living in a way that a lot of the Bible talks about. And yet, none of those people are going to be listening to my music, So like, it's just a lot of preaching to the choir at that point, which seems kind of pointless. If I'm gonna try to create art that's gonna say something meaningful, I would want to do that in such a way that the people who needed to hear it would hear it, and I guess I just don't feel like they would. And these days, especially, because 15 years ago, you could have a political punk band and they would say some things that the average person might not ever think about. You have Propaganda and Anti-Flag and Rise Against and all these bands who are saying stuff that you wouldn't hear normally. At least a lot of people wouldn't hear. Now with the internet, everybody hears everything. And, for me, it's like, what am I going to say that's any different than 1,000 other blogs that people are already ignoring, that they know are there, they don't agree with. So it's just weird. It's kind of like, what's the point of trying to talk to the world? You know what I mean?
Such an interesting point, man. You got there. It's true, man. People, they all heard that. So if you want to say something like, you want to say something that you dislike and you didn't agree with a fuck you, they don't care anymore, because they heard that often. And maybe that explains why there's not much, political punk rock band anymore. But, it's all about, you said it, it's all about positive and love, and we need that, because there's not much band that's still, singing about, let's get together, let's love each other, let's help each other. And that's the thing I love about Christianity, because people have those, wrong idea about the church now. It's really changed. It's not like what you see in the 70s or the 80s. The old things change, and, the church is more open with thing and everything. So, it's just like you said, it's all about the media who put, wrong image, and, it's stuck in people's head. And, I get you. I'm surely, I'm divided with all those things happening in the world. Sometimes I'm just like, what I think about that, what I can do to change that. I have a little girl. I cannot leave, her with that world. It cannot be that, Trump is ahead of the States, and here we got Justin Trudeau, which is not the best. We're stuck with the huge problems too, But that's it. We're at the era of it challenge ourselves, and it makes us ask why. But at the end we're there to fight for people that gonna be there after us, our children and people around them, the next generation. So as long as we can send something positive and bring love and make people happy, I think we're done our jobs. I have band that come to show and they're so happy to come. So, at least even if people don't listen, they're happy. I bring them, something and I'm happy they're happy. I think that we're there.
Yeah, and yeah, I think I mean I've heard bands in the past talk about, love being important, but I feel like I don't know. I think that's even still kind of this weird topic. It's like if you're a punk band talking about love, like, well, is it a love song? Like, we're all used to, poppy punk songs talking about your girlfriend. But, lately I'm hearing more and more, fairly popular, or huge bands, singing about love in a way that's a much more mature concept of it, and that it's not just this romantic thing, but like that it's basically, caring about another person more than you care about yourself, putting other people before you, and living in a way that's a huge value. And, like you said, I mean, there's this portrayal of Christianity that is the opposite of that. And frankly, it's accurate, at least in some places. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, don't worry, all the Christians aren't really like that. No, I'm sure there's a lot of people who call themselves Christians, whatever that means to them, who are really filled with a lot of disdain and a lot of condescension toward other people. And frankly, I have been that person in the past. So I kind of understand where it comes from. But it makes me sad. It's something I've noticed as I've grown up is like the things that you experience at a certain point in life and then you grow out of it and you start to see the mistake in the way that you were living, all of a sudden you see that same mistake in lots of other people and it drives you crazy. Because like, okay, I've learned that I shouldn't act that way, but now all of these other people are still acting that way and you just want to like wring their necks because it's not what you should do, but they're not there yet. They haven't figured that out yet. And I'm sure there were people looking at me saying the same thing when I was living that way. So yeah, it's just, it's a weird time. And I think that's, it's hard to talk about all those kinds of things in music and cause anybody can just write a blog and if they have something to say or write a Facebook post and it kind of takes away the urgency of trying to get it out in a more artistic format. But anyway.
Yeah, and we're at the era of it's all about the reaction of the moment. And there's so much emotion in that reaction that something is really wrong what you write, because it's not really what you think. Because you didn't took the distance to really think about it and figure out, yeah, maybe I have to see another point of view and, balance it and change it. And you know what I mean? It's just with at the era that we respond like, now it's too fast. Everything is going too fast. And, when we look at it, when we're going to look at it, at the times when we're going to be really old, we're going to be disappointed. It was too fast and we didn't see anything going on.
Yeah, and I think once we're older too, we'll look back and I mean, I like to say right now that I've grown a lot, but I hope that in 10 years I'm looking back and going, boy, at 40 that guy was an idiot, because I hope I'm much further along by the time I'm 50 and 60 than I am at 40. But it also reminds me of talking about different points of view. I mean, there are songs on Quitters Never Win. I mean, Masquerade is a good example. That was a song that I wrote about a friend who really hurt me. She didn't mean to hurt me, but it was kind of my reaction to an event that happened, and I was just so mad, and I wrote all that out, and I felt a little bad afterward. I mean, I remember the first time that she heard the song, and I felt all awkward, like, oh, that's about you, how you suck. But years later, like many years later, so another band recorded a cover of that song that was like acoustic. It was very different. And I was listening to that, and it was like I heard the song fresh, and I heard all the lyrics fresh, and I was like, oh my God, what a dick. Like, how could I say those things to somebody who I thought was a friend? You know, how could I just be so, like, self-righteous about the whole situation, you know? And so that was actually a kind of like a gift, because then I was able to, you know, call her up again years later and say, hey, you didn't deserve that. Like, that's garbage. Like,
Wow.
that isn't really how things went down. It's not what you meant. I just took it wrong because I was hurt, and I just made up a story about what really happened. And you know, it's so interesting now. It's so, because for a while I didn't want to play that song anymore. I was like, how can I represent myself that way when I don't like the person who wrote it? But after I talked to her about it, I felt a lot better. Like, okay, you know, that's a part of my life. It's a song that we like and people like, and I don't have to own the feelings behind it anymore. You know, that's just, I was a stupid kid when I wrote it, and you know, I can leave it for what it is, you know.
And wow. I mean, like, you did like the greatest thing that you can do, and I'm sure she was relieved too. I mean, you know, and in a way, when you're teenagers, you don't see the world the way we see it now. You know, it takes time, so it's kind of normal things that kids do. When you're kind of hurt, you hurt back, and then you realize that it's really not a good thing to do because you feel guilt. And if you're like me, when I feel guilt, I don't sleep well. I don't.
Yeah, I think I lived in like I said, I lived in a lot of anger back then, and you know, it's just a lot of selfishness, really. And I'm probably still the same way. I just hope I'm less that way now, and I continue to work on that. So, yeah.
Maybe you're the same, but you can fight it now. So that's the difference.
Right. Once you can see it, I mean, I think I see that a lot. Once you see something in yourself, whatever that is, it's no longer a blind spot, you know, and then you can start to notice it, and you can start to, you know, try to make a change. But when you don't know you're doing it, or that you don't realize that whatever you're doing is not good, like, you don't even think about it, you know. So, yeah.
I think it's the same, you know, with Christianity. I think that, you know, every Christian that, you know, give them their life for, you know, God, they have that moment where they wake up, when they really feel there was something else happening, and it was a hack of God. You know, I mean, you know, I saw that many times in my life where I was, you know, I'm too lucky in a way. That's not normal. It's there's something too magical in the air, you know? And that's the beauty of life, that magic that no one cannot explain. And, you know, whatever you believe, you know, it drive us in, you know, place we don't know about, you know, ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the beautiful thing, that you understand that. And then, you know, I feel it too in many ways. But, you know, anyway, it creates great music through that. You know, I tell you that. Even if there are anger back in the days, you know, I think with the positive vibe on it. And people don't really get it. You know, if you ask to a lot of people, they don't really read the lyrics and everything. They don't get the whole song. It's funny because I'm really into reading lyrics and try to understand, but it's whatever the message you want to understand for that. And I'm sure that people that, like you said, didn't see God in that, but they see something, you know, and it's their
Right.
interpretations.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing too. I mean, there's been so many songs that I thought I knew what they were about, and then, you know, a year later I'll listen to it again and get something totally different, or I'll hear somebody talk about what the song was about and go, oh gosh, I didn't get that at all. Yeah, it'll be funny seeing. So Dan wrote a lot of the new songs that we have, and his lyrical style is a lot less direct than mine. So he's just got a lot more kind of metaphors to the way that he writes, and I think it's funny because, you know, there's whole songs where it's basically all just a metaphor, and no one's going to have a single clue of what he's actually trying to say. They'll come up with their idea of what it's about. But man, when there was a song where he sat down with me and like basically explained every line. And I was blown away, by how much significance of his life are put into these lyrics that are not necessarily going to be obvious to anybody, And so it's cool because they really, really mean something, and nobody else has to necessarily know what they mean, And so that's pretty different for us. That we've always been kind of very blunt in the way that we write, and not really trying to hide anything that we mean. And I don't think he's trying to hide anything. I think this is just the way that his songs came out and the way that he was able to express himself. And so, it's going to be different, but I think people will dig it.
Wow, Chris, you're so generous with your time. It's really cool talking to you. I mean, I repeat myself, but I see you as a really intelligent person, and I mean, you are a beautiful human being, man, and it was such an honor to have you on the show. We're going to do that huge special on you guys. You were at Music for Cancer. I'm sure people asking, will we ever see much the same again in Quebec, around Quebec?
I'm pretty sure you will. There are a number of different opportunities. I mean, I don't know. I would love to do Music for Cancer again. There was some talk about that. I know Puza Fest is a huge thing. I would love to play there. Whether that will be in 2019 or not, I have no idea. But, it's actually interesting. We can see, on now with Spotify, we didn't used to have this stuff to figure out where our fans were. But now we can see, I'm pretty sure Quebec is where the most fans we have in North America, which is kind of weird, right? You'd think it would be Chicago. Chicago's number 10 in the world, and I think Quebec is number 3 for us.
Who's number one? Who beat us?
I'm pretty sure it's Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Oh, they're amazing.
Huge,
Brazil,
right?
you're amazing.
Oh my gosh, we talked about naming the new record "Come to Brazil." I don't think that'll happen, but people are always saying, come to Brazil. And then we went to Brazil, and then immediately afterward, the next comment on there was, come back to Brazil. Okay, we can't ever make you happy.
Yes, there's Eduardo Baquestanan. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it well. We write, new album and new tour in Brazil. I hope someday we can get back there again. South America was really good to us. Such a cool opportunity to play with such great bands too. We went down with Face to Face, Ignite, The Decline, and the Full Blast. It was just this incredible tour that we never thought we were going to tour again. But when we got that offer, we just knew we couldn't pass it up. Especially not only because Face to Face is one of our favorite bands and biggest influences, but people have been saying forever to come down there, and we really never thought it was going to be possible because we're not that big a band. And then the opportunity was there, so we took it. I definitely hope we can get back there again. I mean, the fact that we've been there once now and it went well means that, next time it should be easier to make it happen. And really it's just trying to work things out with our wives and our bosses. Did you have time with Face to Face to spoke with them? And
a little bit. The tour was really hectic. There were 5 bands, and we were basically, rushing from place to place. We were flying from city to city most of the tour. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to just hang out. I think I got one morning in the hotel with Scott Shiflett, and we just had a really good conversation. And he was telling me all kinds of old stories about Lagwagon and fun stuff they did back in the 80s and early 90s. And so that was pretty cool. And I really liked him, and all the bands were really nice. I wish we would have gotten more opportunity, but it was just so hectic. We were just constantly on the move,
Yeah, it happened so fast. But that's why I asked the question. I know Scott for many years. I did many interviews with Face to Face, and he's a clean guy. He's such a great, intelligent guy. Amazing. And is one of the few, because in the scene there's really fucked up dudes, so I do many interviews with them. I don't want to name everyone, you know who you are, but you see them after that a years or two, and they don't remember a thing. And Scott, the first time I saw him, the second time I saw him, He remembered my name, Eric Bedard. We did the interview there. It's just, yeah. Oh, finally, people that remember. Yeah, I just
Right.
fucked up myself when I was a kid, so my brain still worked well. So they went through so many great things. Iron Maiden is my favorite band. They got on the Bruce Dickinson show, and they asked them questions and everything. It's just you have so many things to tell, and it's beautiful. And you remember.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's always a pleasure when somebody that you look up to, still shows they know who you are. Right. I mean, I remember I had a similar situation. So this is, 1997, I think. So before Much the Same started, I had an opportunity to interview Joey Cape for a website that I was, doing interviews for and stuff. And it was a really weird day. Like, it was at Warped Tour and it was raining and it was just this whole mess. But we did the interview. It was on cassette. The cassette got wet, so the interview got ruined. I never had a recording of it.
Oh my God!
Whole weird thing. And they were my favorite band at the time too. So it was like this huge thing. Like, oh, I get to meet like one of my songwriting idols, and he was really nice and cool. And then, the tape's ruined, and so that's all done. But then, like, a year or two later, I went back to see him again, and like, I don't know, I shouted something out at him from the crowd, and he turns and he looks and he's like, "Hey, Chris, how you doing?" Like, what? How the heck do you remember me from like one 20-minute interview 2 years ago? But that always stuck with me. I mean, even now, this is like 20 years later, and that's still like, that meant something for a guy like that to remember a name, because I'm terrible with names, and I always feel bad about that. But at least I'm good with faces. So I don't know what you look like. So if I meet you, you got to tell me who you are, because we're on the phone right now, and I'm not going to know you. So don't get mad at me.
You gotta recognize I don't get mad. I get it, because I'm the same. I remember faces, but names, I'm the worst. But Joey Cape is, in the scene, many people ask me who's the coolest and who's the down to earth. And Joey Cape is always my number one to say. I did something like 20 interview with him, and he's always generous and nice. I did one time, it was on tour solo, and we did an interview about an hour and a half in the van. And I remember after like 15 minutes, he said, "Come on, Eric, I'm going to teach you how to do interview like, the way you should do. You're good, but you talk too much. Ask that question too." Whoa, man, it's surreal. You're Joey Cape, and it's such a nice guy. He has the right heart, and, and it's such a good artist. I mean, you have such talent, and he's one of the best, and it's cool to see that Lagwagon are still going very well. But if you meet Big Bitch Krish have the worst memory of all of them.
That's funny.
He's the worst for memories. And that, I tell him every time. It's like, I know you don't remember. But, now it's something. There's something, but you don't remember. No, I don't remember where I saw you. But they're great guys.
Well, it's funny, because the guys in my band called me a goldfish. Like, they're always hey, do you remember this show that we played in this city, and we went back to this guy's house? And I'm like, no, I don't remember any of that. Like, they're telling funny stories, and I'm like, was I there? Yeah, you were sitting right there. I don't remember this at all. So so that's one of the dangers for me, is like, but faces I'm pretty good with. If I've met someone or talked to them for a little while, and frankly, I mean, the internet makes that easier, right? Because I see, people's faces pop up all the time if they're commenting on things or something. It's like, I get used to a certain group of people who maybe I've met them once, maybe I've never met them, but if I see them in person, at a show, I'm like, hey, I know you, But then you don't want to have the weird thing where you're like, hey, I know you, and they're like, who are you? Like, you're wrong, because you've never seen this person in person, so you're just like making mistakes. But sometimes I just keep my mouth shut,
But that's the thing with media, and it happened to me so many times. Like, I know you, I saw you. No, we never met. It's the first time. Maybe you saw my Facebook account. Oh, yeah.
Right. Right.
I felt I knew you, but it's not the case. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for still, keeping much the same alive. And, I know it's not an easy task to do, but, it's cool to have you back. And, again, thank you so much for your time, Chris. You're an amazing person, and I had blast. And I know we're gonna see each other somewhere, somehow. Maybe not
Yeah, for
next
sure.
year, but I know we're gonna see each other somewhere, somehow. But guys, till we met in person, have the time of your life with the band. Say hi to everyone, and say to Dan that he's a fighter, and all my thoughts and art goes to him.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And thanks for having me on your show. It's been a really good time talking to you too. And yeah, honestly, just to everybody listening, I mean, we're just super happy that that people still care and that people want to hear new music, and we're really excited to finally get something out sometime sort of soon. So hopefully sooner than later.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a good year next year. I have a feeling.
I hope so. I hope so.
And for people who are asking, go see Willow Creek Community Church. You can find them on Facebook and the internet. There's so many things around that community. There's show. I think you're still working there.
Yeah, I've been working there for 2.5 years. I actually am a software developer. That's what I've always done kind of while I'm doing the band. And so it's a cool opportunity to get to work for a pretty big church. I mean, it's my church. It's where I go. And so it's fun to be able to go, to a place that I believe in and do my like techie nerd stuff, in a place that's actually making a difference in the community and stuff. And I'm not just, making some corporation rich. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I like working there a lot, and that's going well.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. People are afraid of church, but they go to Starbucks, pay $5 for a coffee, and they're not afraid of who's behind that coffee. Go check. It's not a beautiful thing,
Right. Well, and there's nothing, I mean, there's good and bad everywhere, right? So I'm not trying to make Willow Creek out to be any perfect place by any means, and we've actually had some crazy stuff happen in the past year that has been in the news and stuff, which has been hard to go through and hard to figure out what to do next. But the heart of the people who are there, I mean, we all just really care about other people. We care about God, we care about people, and we want to do the best that we can, just to make kind of everything better in whatever way that we're able. So yeah, it's a cool place. They have a huge care center too. So we give away, cars to single moms. We give away, free dental and vision care to the needy people in the area, as well as like food and kids' clothes and stuff. I mean, it's an awesome place to be able to serve and really be a part of the community and hopefully show people that Christianity isn't all about just telling people what not to do. You know what I mean?
Thank you for that, and people go check that, and thank you for everything you've done to the community. We're at our time, we said it, but there's not much money now for many families, and we arrive at Christmas, so thank you for that, man. And I'm sure it brings a lot of happiness in the heart of people, and we have to take care of each other more than ever. We're at the fucked up world, and it ain't gonna be better. I don't think so. So,
yeah, it's going to be tough for a while.
I think so. There's going to be a lot to say. So, Chris, till we see each other in person, have the time of your life, with much the same. And I repeat myself, but thank you so much for your time. You were really generous.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's great talking to you, man. Good to talk to you for sure.
So I'm gonna send all the details. I aired the interview on Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern hour. So I'm gonna send all the details how people can listen. We got the podcast, but we're not actually a podcast show. We're lucky to be able to have a studio. We're kind of CKRL 89.1 is the first French Canadian radio station in North America outside government, because there's Radio Canada, which is financed by the government, but we're really independent, but we're the first one. So we're really
Wow,
lucky.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
So I'm going to send all the details and make sure I send you the podcast. And again, thank you so much, Trish.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, feel free to, don't feel bad if you need to cut things for time or rearrange or whatever. I know I was a little bit all over the place, but yeah, just don't splice words in and make me say things I didn't say.
I will never do this. Make sure of that. The only thing I cut is myself talking too much, like I said at the beginning, because it was great. And we're gonna maybe split in two part the interview because there's so much in it, and I don't want to cut, much of it. So you're gonna see. I'm gonna do the magician thing, but the interview is gonna be really interesting. And thank you. And whenever you need anything, Chris, just ask about festival or anything. I know you have great contact, but if you need anything, and before we leave, I just want to say thank to Stephen Rawls. It's because of him, that I had that chance, and he's an amazing guy. I love Belvedere, but what he's doing with management, he's gonna do a hell of a great job.
Yeah, it was really cool the way that worked out because we had just started talking about so we had talked to both Brack Rock EcoFest and Punk Rock Holiday in the past, and I was hoping to do something like what we did with Grows Rock was be able to just fly in and fly out, and I was like, I don't know how much these festivals pay bands our size normally. I have no clue, and so. When we started looking into that, it was like, oh, that's not really going to be possible to go to these other fests. So, okay. And this year we were just like, you know what, we're really expecting to hopefully have something out. Things are a little more concrete than I let on in the interview, but just because we don't want to make any more promises. We've made some promises in the past and haven't been able to follow through on them. So, the new rule is just like we're not saying we're doing anything until we're sitting in the studio. But we're expecting to have something out this year, and we're like, we got to try to go and make the best of it, and so I just started sending out, Facebook messages to friends like, hey, do you know anybody we should talk to in Europe about doing this or that? And Steve was probably the first or second person I asked, and he was like, yeah, me.
Wow.
I was like, oh, really? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm starting a booking agency and a management agency, and I would love to help you out with that. And so it was really perfect because after seeing all the work that he's putting into putting the tour together, I wouldn't have ever had either the time or the contact to do what he's doing. And so it's like such a godsend to be able to just go, hey, I don't have to do anything. Like every so often somebody, emails me and says, hey, we're going to have to play a show in Germany or whatever. Like, sweet, I mean, that's how it should go, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's nice to not to have to do all of that stuff myself. But yeah, so I'm excited for him to kind of get started doing that. It's cool to see. He was saying, that this is something that he's wanted to do for a really long time. And so I've just, I'm excited to, I was just saying this the other day. So he, singer of Belvedere is helping us do that. And then, we're probably going to be recording with a singer of another band that we know and have liked for a long time. And then the singer of another band reached out to me about helping with, some different kind of marketing stuff. And just like, it's actually a lot of singers seem to be doing a lot of this work. But just the different bands that we've met over the years, as we've all kind of grown up, like they've all started doing really interesting things, and, to be able to help their friends out and actually make money at it and have a business is just such a cool thing to see happen. So it's not what I would want to do. I hate the music industry. I like music and I like playing, but all of the business nonsense that goes into it is just, man, pisses me off. So I'm glad that other people are doing it and I'm doing something different, and I just get to reap the benefits.
Yeah, because there's a myth that, out there you cannot, do well. I mean, there's not much money, of course, but, there's so many bands, that whine and complain, but when you see them at the show, they drink, tons of beer, they get wasted and everything, and they're not focused on selling merch or, if you have right people, there's great people. You know, I did merch for many bands, and I was like going to the crowd and sell them directly in the crowd, and it was working. I mean, if you do it the right way, you can bring money. I mean, in Europe, it's
Yeah.
still really working. You know, I think in Canada and the States, the industry really fall down and crash, but you know, in Europe, it's still, you know, it still seems to work in a way, but you know, and they get that, you know, united, it can work. So you know, if you do it intelligently, yeah, you can succeed doing something with that. I mean, like if you check a band like the Descendants, when they came back, you know, they did, you know, in maybe better perspective. In you know, in the 90s it was more maybe hard for them, but now, you know, they're doing great. They're selling tons
Right.
of merch, and it's beautiful to see. You know, there's nothing selling out about selling a, you know, T-shirt and everything, but you know,
Right.
If you have the right people around you, yeah, it totally can work. And you know, I think Steven is one of, he's a guy that would wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. for booking a tour.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And it's yeah, it's funny what you say about, you know, bands like Descendants and stuff. I mean, you know, it's interesting because it's tough because all the, you know, everybody's all old now. Like, you know, there's not a lot of 16-year-olds going to punk shows anymore.
No.
We're all in our 30s and older. And I always laughed. I said, I don't want to be that like weird old washed up metal guy who's like still got, you know, like still wearing his like Ride the Lightning t-shirt and still trying to, you know, playing dive bars, like trying to, you know, keep metal alive when nobody cares, which is kind of what I'm doing now. But at least we have festivals and stuff where like we can pretend that, you know, it's all still going really well. But what's cool about it is like, you know, because it's not a bunch of 16-year-old kids, like you go to a festival and it's all a bunch of grown-ups who have real jobs and some money, you know, and we're not everybody's rich, but, you know, dropping $20 on a t-shirt of a band you like is really not, you know, any big deal anymore. So it's, so that's kind of a nice thing. We don't sell a ton of stuff, but, you know, it's still, yeah, it makes more sense to me that when you have a lot of 40-year-olds going to shows, you're going to do a heck of a lot better financially than, you know, 20-year-olds. So I remember leaving a show one time. I went to a show, and shows back then were like $5. Like that was it. $5 every show. And I walked in and they wanted to charge me $8, and I drove home. I had driven like a half hour to get there. And they're like $8, and I laughed in the guy's face and left. You know, and it was like, who do you think you are? Like, I'm not, you know, it wasn't a big band or anything, but it was like, I don't have that kind of money. You know, I saved this $5, you know, to get in. Yeah, so anyway.
And I think it's a cool thing right now. There's so many, you know, promoters in Quebec that try to really keep low price. And, you know, yeah, it's more than $20 now than 5 or 8. But, you know,
Right.
I mean, there's really lame big band that charge like $150, you know, to see them. Sometimes it's great. Nostalgia really sell, and it's working because,
right.
you know, I mean, Guns N' Roses, I saw tickets for $350. I mean, face it, you know, the guy is not, you know, like back in the days, and even back in the days, you know, and it's just weird, and people pay for that, and, you know, and there's some whining about 15 or $20. A local show, come on, guys. It's cheap price, you know?
Well, the weird thing about that stuff, too, is like, you know, there's people who are doing it and killing it, and there's people who really are just terrible. And, like, I mean, I don't know that Guns N' Roses is terrible right now. I was a Guns N' Roses fan back in the day. Like, I like the music. I'm not super impressed with what I've seen online, but I've got friends who, like, were super excited to go. And so, I don't know, maybe it was a great time. Maybe, you know, maybe it's different live than it is, you know, watching it on YouTube or whatever. I'm sure it is, obviously. But then there's bands like, you know, I saw the Descendants. It's been a long time since I've seen the Descendants. And, like, from the moment they started playing, I was like, wow, these guys are still, it's like no time has passed. They're on everything they're doing, you know, like, Face to Face was the same way, like just killed it every night.
Yeah.
You know, there's all these bands that are, you know, for us punk rockers, like, there's still a lot of nostalgia there, and we can be excited about listening to it, but they don't suck. You know, it's not like we're going and seeing this band who like, oh, these guys have really seen better days. You know, I'm sure there are. I'm
like
sure there are those
going to see
bands.
Marilyn Manson, which is like the worst right now. He suck every show, and I mean, you played like I don't know how much. He canceled Quebec, and nobody got refund. It's just like the show was going on, and it was Rob Zombie after that, and no Manson. He was wasted or something, and you know, he's at the late 40. He cannot handle it anymore. You know, it's just it's screwed up, man.
Yeah, that's weird. I was never a fan of him, but it's anytime you just get guys that are they're just too old to do what they did when they were young, and it's like I don't blame you for still wanting to play those songs that you know millions of people around the world want to hear. But I don't entirely understand spending hundreds of dollars to go see a band that is just really not pulling it off.
You know, my favorite band of all time is Iron Maiden, and you know they're gonna play a show in Quebec in August next year, and I bought the ticket. I bring my little daughter because the ticket was $50.
Yeah.
And you know, I always said to myself, that's my favorite band. Would I pay more than $50 to see something else? And I mean, there's so much, you know, reckless artists out there. I mean, when you see Vince Neil right now, you know, playing like Motley Crue songs, it's just he's fat, ugly, and he's just, you know, he's a waste. He's a mess of a human right now because all the shit he has done and is still doing it. Obviously, is not healthy, you know. And you see guys like Henry Rollins, and you're like, whoa, that guy still blow my mind, you know. You know, and it's you know, I repeat myself, but it's what you throw to people, and you're gonna get that back, you know. So it's all about devastating yourself. You're gonna get that, but you know, I mean, there's artists that understand that, and you know, there's really cool artists out there. I mean, Iron Maiden, I'm sure they did drink maybe, but they never was a wasted band. I mean, if you want to go that far and still be, you know, as healthy as they are now and still tie, you have to be clean, and you know, you eat well, you go to sleep at 9 or 10, and you know, when you don't do show, it's, you know, and he drive plane too, you know. I mean, those people are amazing. It's fantastic to see them, and that's the inspiration. I want to be like them, you know, when I'm gonna be 60.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sitting here, you know, a guy with maybe if I'm lucky, 5,000 fans in the world, is sitting here criticizing guys who are, you know, playing arenas. So I think maybe they've earned it regardless. You know, like do what you want.
It's true. So, Chris, I took enough of your time, man. I'm going to send you all the link. I repeat myself, but thank you so much, dude. I had a blast.
Thanks for doing it.
I really had a blast, seriously.
Yeah, and hopefully when we get something out, you know, or it's coming out, then we can do another one where we can actually play some new music or whatever, talk a little bit more about it when it's a little more concrete. So.
Look, you're stuck in a false contract to come back at the show that you never signed, and it doesn't exist.
No, I'll do it. I'll do it.
The best contract?
I'm a talker, man.
Never signed, never
I told you
exist.
I'm a talker. I'll talk. It's fine.
I love it, and that's what I need. Chris, thank you so much. Have a great sleep, and thank you, man, for your time. Talk to you really soon.
All right. Sounds good, man. Have a good night.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you so much.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.